In an article in the Sunday Telegraph in the UK, it has been revealed more that Stalin was correct in the history surrounding World War II, and that his efforts and his plans have been slandered by bourgeois lies. In a 700-page document that they've gotten a hold of that was never available before, Stalin, at the beginning of the war, had pledged 1 million troops to fight the Nazis right as everything was beginning. All he asked for was a deal with Britain and France to make a cohesive effort and to allow him to send troops through Poland in order to attack Germany. Of course, as history records, he was denied that. And in fact, it's not enough that France and Britain, didn't agree. They never answered. They just left him hanging there. And then after that, Stalin was forced to go ahead and create the Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement in order to buy more time to prepare to fight the Nazis. What they had at the beginning was enough for an effort with Britain and other countries. It was not enough for them to do on their own. They required more. But because the so-called allies were unwilling to take any steps at the time or even live up to their agreement that they had promised to protect and help Poland, the Soviet Union was forced to go it by themselves at that point. So they had to get more time to prepare. According to the documents, this is what he had actually pledged: 120 infantry divisions with some 19,000 troops, 16 cavalry divisions, 5,000 heavy artillery pieces, 9,500 tanks, 5,000 fighter aircraft and bombers. Admiral Sir Reginald Dax was a man in the British military who was sent to talk to the Soviets about this. He said that he wasn't allowed to make any agreements, but he was willing to talk to them. He did admit that the UK, specifically Britain, only had 16 combat divisions ready for action. In fact, he even said that the Soviets were bewildered by Britain's lack of preparedness for this conflict. And it showed that Britain was not ready. They were never prepared to go ahead and protect Poland as they had agreed to. In fact, that was an outright lie. In fact, Stalin had spent more than 10 years trying to prepare for that war. That's why the quote-unquote forced collectivization of the Soviet Union was such a high priority and was accomplished in only 15 years. That was his deal. Even from his own personal diary, it showed that he was concerned that the Nazis were coming and wanted to industrialize in order to prepare for them. Of course, not necessarily Nazis, but he knew Germany was coming. Simon Montfort, who was the author of Young Stalin and In the Court of the Red Tsar, did also comment on this new revelation. The detail of Stalin's offer underlines what is known, that the British and the French may have lost a colossal opportunity in 1939 to prevent the German aggression, which unleashed the Second World War. It shows that Stalin may have been more serious than we realize in his offering this alliance. And then we know from history what happened there. It wasn't until the Nazi blitzkrieg against the Soviet Union that the Allies suddenly realized that they wanted to be part of the war and now suddenly had a plan to work together. Of course, by this time, much of Europe was already occupied by the Nazis. Now, a lot of people suspect that this may have been done intentionally, that they wanted the Soviet Union to fall to the Nazis. They, in general, wanted the Soviet Union to cease to exist. And in fact, there's a good deal of evidence that the delay behind the D-Day invasion may have been just for this very reason, that they wanted the Soviet Union to fall. And they didn't carry it out until it was shown that the Soviets were capable of fighting back. I think this really shows the true face of the so-called allies during the war. All of them were politicking and trying to see what they could get for themselves and try to see what deals they could get out of trying to stop the Nazis, if not behind their backs trying to make money off them like the United States was. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union, the so-called bad guy, the evil Red Empire, were the only ones actually dedicated to stopping the Nazis, while everybody else was trying to get something out of it. Well, I guess you had to be a communist to get it. And I think in the end, it also shows the complete unwillingness to stop what is one of the most bloodiest moments in human history. Now, we could make a lot of guesses about what would have happened had this deal actually been made and the Nazis stopped fast enough. Who knows, maybe the Soviets could have invested more in Spain and actually gotten Franco thrown out. And then Spain could have gone revolutionary, and that could have possibly inspired some parts of Africa or inspired other revolutions around the world. I mean, who really knows? if this had happened, if World War II had essentially never happened, we would never have had to put up with Tito or tankies supporting Tito. Who knows? Maybe because the war never happened, the Soviet Union would have been in a better position, so that when the final famine swept through China, the Soviet Union would have been in a better position to help them. Again, this is all conjecture. We don't really know what would have happened. We do know that it would have been, a benefit to a lot of, what happened at the time, and could have been very beneficial. But then again, you could also make the argument that if World War II never happened, then the Chinese Revolution never happened. I mean, part of that struggle was fighting the Japanese, and one of the things that killed Chiang Kai-shek's credibility was the fact that he kept focusing on fighting the communists rather than fighting, the people occupying your country. So again, we could sit here and we could philosophize and guess forever what would have happened had France and Britain actually stepped up like they said they were going to. But that would be pretty much a waste of time. However, this new revelation does show that Stalin was very serious and committed to fighting the Nazis, just as the rest of the Soviet Union was, and that it was the rest of the Allies dragging their feet in petty politicking that really prevented the Nazis from being stopped before it all started. Thank you for watching. Please comment and rate the video. If you liked it, hit subscribe or check out some of these other great videos. If you wish, share it on social media. And while you're at it, why don't you follow me on Twitter? And if you got time, go on over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.